you're not a fan of like what 𝘬𝗪𝗪 advocates and all.
Yeah,
all that.
but even if I was a fan, does that mean I deserve violence against me?
These are researchers from RSICs, RSICs.
Terrence, get your terms
RSIS.
right. If there's no vow to talk about stuff, if in this case, yeah, you almost feel like you can't say this because of a label. Oh, that's damn dangerous.
Yeah.
That is very, very dangerous.
But Harish, you want to release off, we give you 1 hour, 3 to 4 a.m, Thursday, Fridays, the club key.
Sorry. Thank you. If you love this podcast, chances are you value real conversation. The kind that's honest, emotional, and stays with you. Now imagine a conversation like that about someone you love. That's what we do with our audio service called Folklory. We hop on a 30-minute call with you or someone you choose and turn that conversation into a beautifully crafted, personalized podcast for your loved one. A gift that shows them how much they mean to you and how much you appreciate them, which they can listen to forever. And we guarantee that it'll be one of the most meaningful things you have ever given them. Because we'll use everything we've learned from interviewing more than 1,000 people across 20 countries over the past 5 years, including the Prime Minister of Singapore. And if you want to make it extra special, add on our limited edition Folklory speaker, styled as an old school cassette tape, so they can play their story anytime, anywhere. All the details are on folklory.com or reach out to us on WhatsApp at the link in the show notes. So hope you can check it out because we'd love to help you create something unforgettable. And now, on to the podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah. PSA, we are not a political podcast.
Why?
Just got to put it out there. I mean, the situation in the world today is very political commentators and all. It's been a bad couple of days, right? Political commentators.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just putting out there.
Because, I mean, we are just one day after the horrible assassination of Charlie Kirk in the US, which, I mean, we can talk more about in the first topic.
Yeah.
So I won't dwell too much on that. But apart from that, I guess pretty gloomy end of the week.
Yeah, gloomy. Yeah, exactly. A lot of different... I mean, that's the thing that's been in the news. I think everyone's just reacting to it. Stuff happening and, I mean, more shit going down in Israel and Qatar. Now Qatar also getting dragged into this, right?
Yeah. Nepal, the protests.
Nepal as well. Yeah.
So
floods in Bali even.
Bali?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Dying floods, yeah. So a lot of crazy stuff going on. Yeah. And 9/11, I mean, literally it's like 9/11 as well, right?
Oh, that's true.
Anniversary of that yesterday. Yeah.
And I mean, just like on Wednesday, we released the episode with Janadas Devan talking about how Singapore has grown over the years. You know, the struggles we faced back then, rioting, separation, independence. But it's just, you know, that podcast ended kind of like on an optimistic note. But a few days after that,
just a couple of days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's still important stuff to talk about. Also coming off the back of a Gen Z party in Singapore, which is the other news topic. But, I mean, before we jump into all that, what's our spiel, Terrence?
If you're new here, really appreciate it if you just click a like or follow or subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this, because that really helps us know that people enjoy the content and you want to hear more of it.
Yeah, we are on Instagram, Telegram, Reddit, TikTok. And if you want to work with us, you can hit us up at contact@ministryoffunny.com or just drop us a message at ministryoffunny.com.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
First topic, I mean, kind of related to everything that's going on as well.
Yeah, related. Like, it sets the context for the discussion because on 9th September, which is literally the anniversary of 9/11, the ISD in Singapore...
9th September. 11th September is...
Oh, it was 11 September?
No, as in the anniversary of 9/11's.
Oh my God, what the hell?
9/9 is a shopping day.
Oh yeah.
Where you can get a lot of discounts.
Oh my God, yeah. That was. I mean, it would be too how you say, like coincidental to release what the ISD released on the anniversary of 9/11 lah. Yeah. It was on 9 September, so 9/9, where the ISD issued 2 restriction orders under the Internal Security Act for 2 Singaporeans a 30-year-old man and a 14-year-old secondary 3 student. So, I mean, whose name has been, not released because, I mean, under the gag order. But the case about the 30-year-old, I mean, it's still, anyone being radicalized is still news. But the 14-year-old is, I think, the joint youngest person to ever be issued a restriction order in Singapore by the ISD. And I think he is the first case of self-radicalization by a mix of different extremist ideologies.
Yeah.
That's far right, far left, and Incel.
Yeah.
The Incel subculture. I mean, for those of you who are not aware, Incel is a short for involuntary celibate, which is a movement that happened, I think there's details on who started it, which I'll pull up in a bit. But basically, it is mainly men who kind of blame women for their lack of sexual encounters, and they believe that, the odds are against them, and they group together and they kind of have gone down certain extremist paths in certain sections of the incel culture.
Yeah, and they have perpetrated violence in other parts of the world. What have been classified as terrorist attack. And it's important that, it is quite a monumental thing that incel subculture or group is blamed for what is termed a terrorist attack. Because I think the traditional idea of a terrorist attack is that there's usually it's violence against normal civilians. Usually there's a political goal behind it, right? And by a non-institutional kind of group. And you would think that incel subculture, it doesn't, have an explicit political goal, right? To take over a government or anything like that. It's just general misogyny and a lot of self-hatred and self-misery, right, if anything. And you would not expect that to lead to such extreme forms of violence, but it has happened.
Yeah, because, I mean, they ultimately have a common enemy, right? Women. And I mean, just to follow up on what I mentioned, the term first appeared in 1997 when a queer woman called Alana, who was an undergrad in Canada, started a website called Alana's Involuntary Celibacy Project. So basically a place for people who are not getting any sexual activity or failing in the dating scene to coalesce. And that then became co-opted. And because there is a common enemy, I think based on whatever you read online, I mean, if these forums are public, these Reddit forums are public, I think they kind of not say worship, but look up to people who have conducted violence against women. Some people who have rammed cars into groups of women, they are seen as heroes for fighting the oppressor. So it's kind of scary. But this young man, all three ideologies, far right, far left, and the incel.
Yeah, and they call it salad bar ideologies in the sense that, you pick and choose what you want at the salad bar. Yeah.
I mean, there was also a more local analogy on Reddit, call it the 𝗙𝗶𝗁.
Yeah.
one meat, one veggie, one egg.
Point rice.
Yeah, pointy rice. But I mean, what made you want to talk about this?
I think it's, in the context of the very polarized discussions that a lot of people are having about what's happening with Charlie Kirk and his assassination in the US. I think this kind of reminds you that in Singapore we're not immune to people with very extreme religious extremist tendencies, but now also you mix in these subcultures that encourage violence or even just general hatred against essentially half the population, right? Women. But at the same time, I think it's worth examining because, again, like I mentioned earlier, I think religious extremism is a bit different from what being an incel is, right? I think that's why I thought it's worth discussing. But for you, why are you so interested to talk about the incel?
I think not so much talk about the incel. I think it is kind of the context of what has been happening in the past few days. Because essentially, Charlie Kirk, he got assassinated. For people who might not be aware, I'm sure you might have some idea of what he is known for.
Yeah.
You know, he's far-right activist, been on the campaign trail supporting other Republican candidates, good friend of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And also...
Harish, we'll give you the platform now to clear the air about how 𝗤𝗏 𝗏𝗧 was one of your One Shiok Things recently.
I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. So basically, I mean, he has quite controversial opinions. And you see videos of things he has said. Like, I don't agree with a lot of things he said, but he got shot while giving a talk at a university on behalf of his organization, Turning Point USA. And he got shot. I think the authorities in the US have released a photo of the person of interest because he or she hasn't been captured yet. But what I found them shocking and disgusting to a certain extent was how people reacted to the death. And I mean, of course, you see examples in the West about, like really people celebrating and all that. But even locally, some posts I see online by people who we have interacted with and all, I feel like it was a bit too kind of like either pointing out that, he's a hateful person, he speaks hateful stuff, he says stuff, okay this is his 𝗂𝗵𝗶𝗀. Which I felt like on the same day, I think the difference is that he's a political commentator. He hasn't enacted any policy, he hasn't kind of like been directly responsible for violence. So him getting shot, when I hear people kind of say, he has spoken about how he'll willingly take a few gun deaths a year to allow people to retain the right to bear arms, it's just a statement. And also my One Shiok Thing, because I think on Reddit someone pointed out that he was my One Shiok Thing. It was a debate he was having with someone at one of these university style talks about gun debate, about the right to bear arms. And why it was my One Shiok Thing was I didn't agree with what he said. It was my One Shiok Thing because I liked how the guy debating him came with a very good argument. To which even 𝗤𝗏 himself said, you have a good point, and I thank you for the discourse. And it was a very respectful discussion. And that's what I think is important. People disagree, you share opinions, but you fight back with words. So when this happened, it's the polarization again. So in this case, it's like how this guy got radicalized. Apparently, 𝗖𝗏 says that now the time to get radicalized has been halved. Typically, it was 24 months. Now it's 12 months. I think there was a case in the past year where a girl was radicalized in 3 weeks. It's because of all this stuff that's available online. So that's why I felt like, okay, this it's talking about it. It's almost cathartic, maybe.
So, I mean, I think basically clarifying that you're not a fan of like what 𝗤𝗏 advocates and all that.
But even if I was a fan, right? Does that mean I deserve violence against me?
No. Yeah.
Right. So, but I think when you see people kind of like hint at that, that's where it feels like, oh shit. This problem of the people getting radicalized is not just the nefarious corners of the internet that is contributing. It's everyday people.
Yeah. I think I really quite vehemently disagree with a lot of stuff that he says. But I think we should never celebrate violence against anybody. Right? I think that's not the world that we want to, leave behind for children to pick up, where your words are punished by violence, regardless of whatever the content of the words were before. They're just words, right?
Yeah.
So it is a very unfortunate thing, and I see a lot of people jumping on it and saying things that are essentially celebrating his death, or saying 𝗷𝗵𝗀 essentially the Singaporean version of the 𝗷𝗵𝗀.
What was the Singaporean? Schadenfreude.
𝗷𝗵𝗀.
What was that? Was it?
You deserved it. You deserved it. You never heard 𝗷𝗵𝗀 before?
I've heard it before, but I never used it. It's not one of my.
It's not Chinese or anything.
Terms.
It's not Chinese. I'm just pointing out. Before you I had to stick out my hand and apologize to you for the use of Cantonese.
I'm glad you explained it.
Yeah. But essentially people saying, karma's a bitch, or be good, things like that.
Yeah.
But a bit tough to see people getting so riled up about it and not seeing the humanity, the loss of humanity, right?
I mean, even the loss of humanity is one thing, because, okay, like a murderer, when he gets sentenced to jail and he gets the death penalty, I think that one almost feels like, okay, you literally kill someone. In this case, he has been speaking his opinions. Of course, you can extrapolate and say, he has conditioned people to think a certain way who then acted on that. But then to me, I'm like, no, that's ultimately it's not him one.
But then it means what? Nobody can ever talk about him in that breath.
Not on the same day.
Not on the same day. So how long was the...
That one I don't know. Yeah. Because I think it is also worth talking about, like, okay, at least if I was in the US, talking about how the gun laws allow these sort of things to happen. And of course, you always see people say like, "Oh, this now is not the time." Maybe on the same day, maybe not yet, but there needs to be a time to talk about this because it was because of the gun laws that these kind of things happen.
Yeah, I do think definitely there's a lot of potential for this act of violence to stoke further acts of violence, and the job of Donald Trump as the president of the US is to bring down temperatures a bit, which I think he has. He said that, I think he's asked for peaceful reactions to this.
Oh, really?
I think initially he said like there will be very severe ramifications and everything. But more recently, he actually came out and I think tried to bring down the temperature a little bit.
Oh, because I remember one of the first things he said, immediately he blamed it on the far left, right?
Immediately, yeah. But after that, he said something else about peace.
Then did you see what happened at the vigil that was being held in Boise?
No, I haven't, no.
So there were like hundreds of people out for Charlie Kirk. Then apparently the leader of the local Black Lives chapter rode through and just shouted, F Charlie Kirk. And then there was a fight and there was violence.
Yeah. So it's basically like it's tripwire now. Like anyone is just waiting for an excuse to be violent against anyone who disagrees with them.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't even need to be. You could actually be agreeing on certain things, like this 14-year-old boy here who is a mishmash of ideologies, right?
Yeah.
And in some ways maybe some of them overlap with each other and all. There might be things that they agree on, but everyone's just looking for an outlet now.
Yeah. And I mean, the worrying trend is that we're seeing more younger and younger radicalization, people who are getting radicalized. I think 𝗬𝗲 also said in the past year, there were... since 2015, there have been 45 self-radicalized people who have been dealt with by the 𝗖𝗍. There are 11 cases under 20 years old. But in the last year, I think there have been significantly a higher proportion of people under 20 who've been radicalized.
Yeah.
So that is the worrying trend. I mean, this guy 14, if you read how he got radicalized, it was all through the internet, and he even tried sharing it with friends. But it was all through the internet. And now you think about it, if you want to find info on any of those three ideologies, you can.
Yeah. But one thing I did find quite interesting, right, was that even the headline of the CNN article talking about this, they mentioned it is literally Singapore picks up first case of incel radicalized by mixing far right, far left, and ISIS ideologies. But if you actually look at the 𝗖𝗍's, MHA's press release, right? When they talk about the self-radicalized youth, they talk more about the religious extremist ideologies that he was exposed to, and they go into some detail of that. They talk about how he became an ISIS, sympathizer and all. The incel content part was like at the end of everything. It was like the third paragraph that they talk about it. But the framing of the discussion, at least according to the CNN article, and the subsequent CNN explains what is incel culture and why does it lead to radicalization, right? Kind of paints it like the incel part was the biggest part of his identity, as opposed to he was started off as a religious extremist who picked up certain elements of incel culture as well.
That's true.
And that's why I do find it, and I saw this on Reddit, and I also was examining, I was like, oh, okay, it's pretty interesting that it was, they chose to focus on the incel part, right? As opposed to the religious extremism part. And not saying that incel is, less worrisome or less dangerous or whatnot, right? But again, like what I mentioned earlier, these are researchers from RSISIS,
Get your
RSIS, yes, which is the Rajaratnam School of International Studies, it's just a 3-page thing where these researchers, Pantucci and Ong, talk about how incel culture, being classified as terrorism is quite different from religious extremists who commit acts of it's outright terrorism, right? There's a political goal behind it. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting that people that the media seems to be, it's all about the incel part of things, right? Because incel, I think in recent months as well, with Netflix shows like Adolescence and things like that, it's been in the news, right? But the truth is, the religious extremism is still, to me, when I read the MHA press release, it's the core of what happened to this boy, and that's what needs to be guarded against. Yeah. But I mean, the one thing I also did read, chance upon when thinking about this whole process or reading about this whole self-radicalization process, you heard the horseshoe theory of politics?
No.
It's just something, I mean, some people say it's a very simplistic theory, but it says that sometimes the far right and the far left ideologies, actually they're so close to each other that the spectrum actually is more like in the shape of a horseshoe, where the far right and the far left are actually so close to each other. And somewhere, I guess, in some sense, this boy is somewhere there, where the far right and far left, there are a lot of overlaps in actually what he's thinking. And he just picks and chooses what he wants. So in that sense, it really applies here, where this... It's quite scary that this young boy has picked up so many different, extremist ideologies.
Yeah, so that's why it was interesting, because his far right beliefs, the far right beliefs sometimes, or quite often include xenophobia, anti-Muslim rhetorics, but he's a Muslim. So he rejected that part of the far-right extremism, and then he adopted some of the far-left extremist views.
He's like communism and socialism.
Yeah, that's why it's really a salad bar. But going back to the thing about the incel thing, because, I mean, to Straits Times credits, their title was Singapore Boy 14 Given ISA Restriction Order, First Self-Radicalization Case from Mixed Ideologies. And the incel part only came similar to the ISD report. They talked about the far left, far right, and then the incel. But just looking at whatever chronology I could find in the articles about how he chanced upon the different things, he chanced upon incel-related content in 2023. But for the other ones, the far-right extremism middle of last year, and then around the same time was far-left. So technically, if following that chronology, he identified as an incel first, and then the other two. So I don't know whether that was the reason why they did it.
Possibly.
But I mean, because normally the titles do reveal a lot. And I think we sometimes, are very critical about how they title stuff. But in this case, it was a bit odd that now looking at it is like, incel is the first thing. Because the scarier thing is incel culture can lead to violence, but typically far right especially tends to be associated with violence more. So that feels like the more pertinent, or the ISIS ideology, that's the more dangerous thing.
In fact, incel, I mean, I came across that term really quite early on. I think, I don't know, maybe 8-9 years ago, something like that. And just reading forums about it, all that, actually there was a lot of it that is not even espousing get out there and go and be violent or treat women bad. A lot of it is almost self-misery. It's your jawline cannot make it, you're condemned already. The Chads, which is the good-looking guys, are going to get all the Stacys, and you will just be left with the 3 out of 10s or 4 out of 10s, that kind of thing. And it's a very very depressing read when you read that kind of thing. It's very fatalistic about, what is your role in society. So it almost makes you, I think there's even a term for it, they call it black pilling or something like that, where you just sort of accept that you are a loser and your life is ruined forever, and there's nothing you can do. Even going to the gym won't help unless you do really drastic things like surgery or whatever, and it was actually, reading that actually, it didn't, at that point when I read it, I never thought of it as this will lead to violence. It's so scary. In fact, I just thought of it more it will just lead to more, just boys just sort of sticking in their own circles, right? And not being social and everything. I mean, I did not see years later that it would lead to such extreme violence, for sure. But that's where, people are kind of also saying that this focus on incels, it kind of conflates quite a lot of different things as well, especially like the CNA Explains article, because there's literally a point where they quote those same researchers who talk about NS and they say, the researchers say, some other incels take on a slightly different but equally misogynistic flavor, such as the sentiment of how military conscription sets men back in their careers, while self-serving and career-minded women are given a step ahead to advance in life. So there are people online who are like, wait, how are you conflating like the discussion about NS with being an incel? It's almost like saying like, just because you believe that, national service does set males back or something, just because you believe that means you're an incel.
You got incel potential. Terrence, you got incel potential. I also got incel potential.
Yeah. So Aware also got incel potential. Aware say that women should.
But women, women can be incels also.
Yeah. So, to me, it was just, the word incel is like, it's so broad as a thing that, for it to lead to far right or far left, still, to me, it's quite a stretch when I see it.
So mentioning them in the same line is a bit odd.
Yeah.
Because I won't deny that there have been times in the past where I also, if I were to read that, I'm like, okay, this is me.
Yeah, basically,
when you're dating,
when you're single,
when you're getting rejected,
left, right, center, can't get a date, and then you're just automatically swiping left on Tinder until your thumb hurts, right?
Yeah. There was a time when me and my friend, both of us were like, what's going on? We would, sitting each other, we would put our phones next to each other and swipe, like take turns to one person swipe two phones.
Drink coffee.
So by CNA's definition, that was an incel meeting.
Yeah, same. I mean, there was, dry spell in my life at some point.
Yeah.
But does that make you an incel, right?
Yeah. So,
and looks maxing, I mean, the thing that supposedly was his entry point to incel culture was looks maxing, right? Thinking about how to make yourself look better. I mean, and that's something a lot of people think about, regardless of whether they are so-called incels or not, right? Think about, your weight or your face and how you look and all that. So does that merely make you an incel, right?
Yeah. So I mean, that's true, because I think the whole incel thing, of course, there's an extremist side of things, but that's like saying you like being, you like the military.
Yeah.
You can like the military without being like wanting to shoot everyone, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so mentioning it in the same line, like far right, far left already have connotations of extremist tendencies, right? ISIS ideologies, of course. Incel, I think even last year, there was a publication in Singapore that published something about incel culture that got a lot of flack also. I don't know whether it was CNA or not. But it kind of like takes away from the more urgent thing about the far right, far left ideologies, and I mean him wanting to commit violence, wanting to support ISIS, looking up to people who have conducted mass shootings before.
Yeah, apparently he was in touch with some ISIS sympathizers who sent him bomb making manuals. That worries me even more, like that this material is being like distributed, right? Yeah,
and I mean one thing, the thing that stood out to me the most was when he's working with the religious rehabilitation group, which is where the acting minister for Muslim Affairs Faisal gave a speech, and I think one of the people, something quoted that ISD said was that psychological and social rehabilitation will help address his propensity for hatred and violence, his subscription to other extremist ideologies and beliefs, and factors that leave him vulnerable to radicalization, such as his lack of critical thinking skills. When I read that, right, I mean, if you look at how dedicated he was to the cause, right? I don't know, lack of critical thinking skills. I mean, okay, there are some contradictory ideologies that he has that are at conflict with each other. But to me, this guy is not dumb. If you think about the depths to which he was doing research, I mean, any 14, 15-year-old, you want to ask them to study for something that they have to take an exam is damn hard already.
Yeah.
This guy was spending hours consuming content, building networks, like being open-minded to consider other ideologies. To me, I don't think that's a lack of critical, maybe lack of certain things, but I don't know, I read that, I was like, making it seem like, okay, lack of critical thinking skills. I think he's probably thinking a lot.
Yeah.
How critical, I don't know, but that was the thing that stood out for me.
Yeah. And I feel like, just reading a lot of the reactions to the articles and all is that, sometimes people need that pressure release valve to talk about things, right? And the moment, like, if you just say you talk about NS or NS culture, or and how male citizens are set back by NS or something like that.
Incel.
I think if you do that, it's very bad, because now a lot of debates about NS are not even about women versus men. It's about local citizens versus PRs and foreigners who live here, right? I think that is actually becoming a much bigger debate, right? About immigration and the policies, and Singapore being very open to immigrants and everything, right? I think if you just don't allow people to talk openly about it without and then label them incels if they do like that, it's tough, then it makes people, it tips them over the edge, it pushes them to the extreme of just maybe even absorbing more of this extremist ideologies, because they don't feel like they're being heard. And I think there are legitimate criticisms of the whole national service as well, right? We talk about the national service pay and how does it set someone back in their career. These are legit things to think about, right?
Yeah.
But if it's all just being swept under this incel culture and subculture that angry men they complain about, that's when more normal middle of the ground people might get pushed over to that extreme as well.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we are reading too much into it, but because this is the second time I think there's been an incel article that made people go like, hey, why are you saying these kind of things? Because like what you said, right? If there's no valve to talk about stuff, I think, I mean, that's essentially the problem with the Charlie Kirk assassination, right? He was sharing his thoughts. He would go on tours, I think called Prove Me Wrong, where he would invite students to debate him.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like civil discourse. The fact is, he was saying stuff where, you could debate. If in this case, you almost feel like you can't say this because of a label. Oh, that's damn dangerous.
Yeah.
That is very, very dangerous.
Correct.
And also, what happened in Nepal recently, the protests? It started because there were videos being put on social media by the families of politicians showing a very atas life.
Oh, yes.
And then I think it was starting to rile people up. The government banned social media, and the Gen Z generation, because it's being called a Gen Z protest, they revolted. And the Prime Minister and his whole cabinet has resigned. The Prime Minister's house got burned down. Parliament also, I think, got burned down. The Hilton Hotel got burned down. And it's just because, they were feeling clamped down. It's one of those things. I mean, on an episode of 𝗙𝗵𝗀 we recorded recently, which will be out in a few weeks, we were talking about how Singapore, last time there used to be the anti-yellow culture purge, the long hair ban. It felt like Singapore was a lot more restrictive back then. But in the 80s and 90s, it started opening up because it almost felt like, okay, there's a problem, you curb it, and then once things are okay, you let off steam. Now it feels there are so many new things happening that it's being curbed. There's no letting off of steam. And it's scary. Because in Nepal, that protest essentially was the flaunting of wealth inequality. Right?
Was it Indonesia also?
Indonesia also something like that.
They broke into politician's house and then took out all his bear bricks and everything.
Because I think the leaders were found out to be being paid a lot of money. So it's like, wow.
So I think there's something here bubbling under the surface, and I think maybe there needs to be a bit more nuanced acknowledgement of these issues as well, and more nuanced discussions of them rather than labeling them immediately as incel subculture.
Because literally the article came out 10 September, what is incel culture and why does it sometimes lead to radicalization?
Harish, you want release off, we give you 1 hour, 3 to 4 a.m, Thursday, Fridays, the Clarke Quay.
Sorry. Thank you,
Mr.
Shamuka.
Your relaxation.
Just 1 hour of extra hour of steam. Hour of steam, let go. But man.
Which is, I guess that's a very good transition point to talk about our next topic, right? Which is something about the letting, young people. How do young people
let off steam?
Let off steam these days, right?
Yeah, because it was last weekend. Was it last weekend or the weekend before?
I think before.
The weekend before. There was the sober party at Funan. And I mean, over the past few months, there has been more and more conversations about how there are all these third spaces that are coming out, these afternoon raves. Like some of the more prominent ones are like Beats and Beans. this collective where they hold sober parties in the afternoon, where people can buy coffee and stuff, and they party. Like, if you look at videos that came out of Funan, it looks like a club, except that the DJ was spinning at the 𝗲𝗲𝗍𝗵𝗶 shop or something, which is a very cool idea. And the latest article was on Straits Times was, do Singapore Gen Z still know how to party? So, I mean, like, you were a partier in your younger days. What you feel so strongly about this, that you want to talk about it?
I think it's an interesting discussion. And you know, we talk a lot about the business of nightlife, right? And how it's dying. F&B and retail and nightlife are all dying. We talk about the policies that the government, you know, makes to try and get people to go party, you know, at Thursday, Friday, 3 to 4 a.m. and everything. We talk about what, you know, transport providers need to do to revive the party scene. But do Gen Zs even want it? Like, that's the question. Like, when you see articles like this and you see how, you know, sober parties and all that, do Gen Zs really want that kind of nightlife that we all thought was like the pinnacle of like adulthood, right? You know, you go out and you're in your 20s, you're single, you're earning money already, and you can actually go out there and have a good time and spend and, you know, get smashed and everything, right? Do they want it? That's a good question.
I mean, there is a global trend, not just in Singapore, of the younger folk drinking less alcohol, nightlife in general dying. I think there's a South China Morning Post article talking about how it is a trend in Asia, also about being obsessed with cafe parties. I think, like, I mean, if I were just to look internally, I was never the biggest clubber. But in university and all, drinking was a big part of it. It was house parties and all, but it felt like, okay, the day is not the time for this. It all happens at night. And I won't deny, sometimes I think like, wow, this is damn lame. It's a new thing. You know, like, once you take away alcohol, all the funniest stories and funniest shit that won't happen, the chance meetings, chance encounters, the things that you would want to just like look back with your friends and relive these ridiculous moments, all probably don't happen anymore.
And it's all in broad daylight. You can see each other's faces and everything.
And these people are dancing sober. I cannot imagine dancing sober. To me, it's like doing the Great Singapore Workout. You're just like, what the fuck are you doing? You know?
We were just watching like a live stream of the Bean and Beats. Not a live stream, I think a recording of Bean and Beats event. And I was noticing that the guy dancing in front of the camera, I could see all his sweat stains on his pits and everything. Right?
He was going at it, man. But he was sober. I'm like, I cannot imagine. Me dancing sober is like the most awkward thing ever. But then, you know, I read about the article and all, I'm like, I mean, I still think it's a good thing that there's all these new things that are coming out. Because, I mean, there are people who are doing stuff like taking over, you know, clubs during the daytime and mixing wellness with social life, coffee parties. And it's just maybe that's what the older generation thought about how our generation partied.
But I mean, you know, contradicting like something you mentioned just now, that there is also data, you know, according to the article, that all these proclamations that Gen Z don't want to drink anymore might be overstated. And it really might more boil down to just really, you know, cents and dollars, right? That it's just too pricey to drink. And I think there was basically like an anecdote that last time, you know, you could, with $50, you could safely go out for a night out at like Zouk and then, you know, have a drink, take a taxi back and everything. $50, you're covered. But now, like, even if you go out $80, that's your cab fare.
That's true. That's true.
And people don't even have it's just they don't even have the option of like thinking of like buying alcohol at the event already, right? So, you know, the fact that when you watch those live streams of like the Bean and Beats, all that, the people are partying. They're not like sitting there sipping coffee and like talking, right? They're really partying. So I see in the eyes of those young kids there, the same primal urge to like dance and be in a tribe and all this that we used to do in clubs and all that, right? So I don't think people want to party less, or they don't want that joy of like, you know, being in a group and doing something as a group activity, almost like a ritual kind. They want it. It's just that they're being priced out by how expensive nightlife is.
That's true lah. That's true lah. Because I mean, there's another anecdote in this article talking to I think a 24-year-old student saying she's never lived in a world with the Night Rider bus. Yeah. But its reintroduction would make her consider having more nights out, which is something we have spoken about before also. The whole ecosystem of going out at night. If you solve all these pain points, right, yeah, probably will happen. And I mean, there are even bars quoted in the article by saying that when they run like promotions where the alcohol is a lot cheaper and all, they actually have a lot of younger folk who come. I think there's a Telegram group for one of the bars that have like 12,000 followers where they share the deals, the 𝗬𝗽𝗶𝗀 at Zouk.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have 12,000 fans with promotions along Gen Z infused meme culture lah. So yeah, maybe that is true lah. Maybe when we look at the stats that do say Gen Zs are drinking less, the reason is not because they fundamentally don't want, is everything else lah.
Yeah. And I think also like when people talk about last time clubbing culture like that, we talk about it like they're on monolith.
Yeah.
But it also went through an evolution. There was a point when at least in Singapore, clubbing felt much more like everyone could do it. Like everyone, meaning generally. Like I would go with like my army mates kind of thing, even on our shitty army allowances, you could afford to go.
There are some bars where
and no pressure of like who you're going with or dressing up and all that.
And you get drunk at 7-Eleven or...
Yeah, you can drink like the 7-Eleven nearby, whatever, or the coffee shop nearby, just have a couple of beers and things like that, and then go, right? It just felt like this quite... I wouldn't even want to use that word because it makes me sound egalitarian kind of place, right? Where you could let your hair down. But there was a point, I think, like maybe 2010, 2011, when there were joints like... what's the name of that place? The one that was at River Valley, Filter. Yes, it was called Filter. Then they started to introduce this whole thing about bottle service and booking tables. Then,
that wasn't a thing before that?
No, before that, it was not a prominent thing. Like you could do it, but it would be like, okay, in that section of Zouk, like the members, then you book a table kind of thing. You can for your birthday. But that Filter brought it to the nth level where they were like, okay, to get in, you gotta be with a table. Like, so you come in, you got to spend, like the group has to spend $1,000 on the table. And, you're expected to dress well. And if you're a group of like army boys or that, sorry, you're not coming in tonight, So that, and I do highlight the difference because like when I was living in New York, that's what partying felt like, very exclusive
stuffy
and like you got to like dress. I mean, it's fun, but you still got to like, you plan a lot. Then I remember missing the partying in Singapore where it was much more like, as long as you're ready to, let your hair down, all that, you can go,
Yeah.
So, yeah, even clubbing, all that, there was I distinctly felt like that culture also changed then to suddenly it became this very showy act of like, open table, then the girls come out with the sparklers and all. Remember the sparklers and all that crap, right?
Yeah.
So it changed what clubbing was, and I think it actually speaks more to the income inequality that we've seen in Singapore in the last decade, right? People, I mean, like we talked a lot about ostentatious expenditure, right? And that was happening in clubs, and I think that, if anything, that killed the clubbing scene. I think that made it much less accessible to everyone.
Oh, that's true. And plus, I mean, another thing is probably also social media. Because last time, I was not as a clubber connoisseur as you, but I did go a few times. And I remember me and my friends, how we would, get drunk up and all, is we go to 7-Eleven, we look for the beer with the highest percentage. It was Amsterdam beer. It was like 12%. It was fucking shit.
Not Jolly Shandy.
No. Because we knew when we go in the club, things would be like expensive.
Yeah.
So we would load up on that. It tasted like crap. And then you go to the club and you have all the rum and cokes because they were the cheapest drink. And then you imagine now if you're caught drinking Amsterdam, people take photo, they'll be like, hey, you poor, this. Or if you drink too much at a club and you come out and, I mean, I have definitely puked in public. If you imagine you do that now, you are screwed. Your whole next week or months will be pictures of you puking and shit like that.
Yeah.
And plus, in a club where it's dark, you can't be seen. Like watching that video just now where people were raving in daylight, you can see some of them performing for the camera. It's them annoying. I just get them triggered by that. I'm like, let the DJ do his damn job. But in a dark club, you cannot get that kind of stuff.
That's true. Yeah.
A lot you can do everything for the gram.
Yeah, you can remain quite anonymous even after the night is over. Right?
Yeah. So,
but here you're like on the internet forever.
But people want it, They want it. It's like, wow, there's the sweat stains, the pit stains,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just that whole generation of like people who grew up on social media. It is part of their social fabric.
Yeah.
And can you fault them for wanting to build stuff that speaks to them? No.
Yeah, and I think something that happened to me recently that convinced me that Gen Zs, they want a party. I don't know if you've tried the new yogurt place called 𝘂𝗀𝗃.
Oh, I don't know.
I managed to like line up and get a seat in one of them. And it was like a really strange experience because they were blasting like music, like dance music, like it was in a club. And it felt there was like, there was almost like velvet rope kind of thing, like where you had to queue out half an hour to get in. Then you get in already, wow, everyone's so excited by new things. Then I'm like sharing tables with like this bunch of like 14-year-old girls who they're all intently staring at this one tub of yogurt, and then suddenly they start breaking out into like synchronized dance. Then I realized, oh, there's a phone there, and they're sort of like just filming a video of themselves dancing in the 𝘂𝗃. Like it's a flex to be in there, and it's a flex to dance there and everything. So, I mean, it's just the Gen Z's way of like sort of going out together and registering that they are doing this activity together, right?
Yeah.
Whereas last time for us was like, you go to a club and then you all get smashed and just have like very vague memories of it. Now they immortalize it by recording themselves dancing.
Yeah. And I mean, can we fault them for it? That's how they live their lives, and in fact, we've spoken so much about how third spaces are cool. We need more third spaces. So when people come up with third spaces like this, it's like, hey, actually, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, but I wouldn't discount the nightclubs just yet, right?
Yeah.
Possibly like if stuff gets more affordable or feels more affordable, then maybe they might change their minds about it.
Yeah, but I mean we've also chanced upon like the behind the scenes of what happens at some of these kind of sober parties
Yeah.
And I mean specifically beans and beats and this is not something that we dug up through the annals of like personal stories. It's a blog post about one of the founders of Beans and Beats and how the reason he is so keen to do it is because of his faith. And then so I think there have been some comments online about how the concept of raves is being co-opted by people who don't even understand how raves came about.
Yeah,
that one I feel like I don't resonate that much with
In fact, I feel excluded from that group of people who understand raves better.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, don't give me the shit. That's like saying, oh, you cannot make art if you're not an artist, because we have heard that so many times from we never went to film school and like, oh, what are you YouTuber and all this shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, more specifically, like one of the co-founders, there's a blog post by about Aidan Low, and he's very vocal about how he wants to almost bring people to God through his work. And he's one of the co-founders of Beans and Beats.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the reasons why he said he started it was because he didn't want to promote alcohol drinking.
Sinning.
Yeah, sinning. So I mean, just getting some conversations around this article. We didn't go to the event. But when you see something like this, does it make you look at these sober-free events with a different kind of like a feeling? Yeah,
definitely. I think I was just having a sort of a mini debate with a friend yesterday, right, who didn't see anything wrong with it. But I do feel like if there is an undercurrent of religiosity or evangelism in what you do, right, it needs you kind of need to be more explicit about it, And I think in that blog post on 𝘲𝗏 the Bean and Beats founder literally said, evangelism is the main objective of why I do business. It would be such a waste if I had this platform and claimed all the credit for myself instead of pointing people to God. My main objective is to point to Jesus and to show Jesus through my business. Which I think is fine. It's fine that you put it out there like that now. But if it's so explicitly that the business is about promoting something related to religion, I think the people who, it is better to be upfront about it, right? And the fact that the event got support from the government also, I think it's important to be upfront about your intentions as well. Because you could be, I think the analogy my friend said, but Tom Cruise is a Scientologist and he acts in Mission Impossible movies. But yeah, he's just a religious guy who acts in movies, right? Like a religious person organizing parties, I got no issues with that. But when it's expressly said that the religious guy is running a business that is about showing, evangelizing through the business, right? That's where I feel it gets really dicey. And just going to our earlier discussion about religious extremism and all that. Of course, right now, 𝗵𝗶𝗏𝗍's, very innocent party, people meeting and all that. That always, people say, but there's no harm, right? Even if it's like, as much as he's a religious person or even if his business is religious, the event is generally a secular kind of event, right? True. But that's why I feel like it's, in this day and age, it's very important to be very clear about your intentions, whether or not you are good guy, bad guy, or whatever, or whatever you think you are, wherever you on the spectrum you think you are, right? You just need to be super upfront with your intentions.
Yeah, when you first mentioned that you were uncomfortable, I was like, but I was the same as approach. If the event is secular, if there's no hint of religiosity or God, I got no issues. But then that quote you mentioned, and also further down in the article, and this one, I married a Catholic, okay? So I'm not someone who
you're allowed to.
I'm not intolerant of religion, okay? I think there's my thoughts of religion has evolved. But he literally says, the fact that I've been given a personal platform to speak about my faith shows that being bold doesn't only mean street evangelism. Instead, it's about being unashamed of the gospel wherever we are, and when the right moment comes, sharing it and pointing people back to God. So that I felt like, that's a bit weird, because if you look at our leaders, right, when they took the oath being sworn into parliament, some of them said, "So help me God," some of them didn't. Some of them held religious texts, some of them didn't. But I don't think we fault them for having a religion or a faith.
Yeah.
But imagine if Lawrence Wong said, when the right moment comes, I will share my beliefs and point Singaporeans to God. Takes a very different tone.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, like what you said, the separation, also because he's one of the co-founders, we don't know about the other two. But when I read this, I was like, oh, that is a bit like,
And we are, we literally just did an episode about like multiculturalism in Singapore. We are multi-religious, multicultural.
One of the most multi-religious in the world, right?
So that's where religion really needs to be handled very carefully, in Singapore. And as much as good as your intentions are, as even the impact, everything is positive, it's still important that you are fully transparent with whatever you intend to do with your religiosity in your business, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where, this thing deserves further scrutiny.
They put a disclaimer, while Aiden is personally driven by his faith, Beans and Beats welcome people from all backgrounds who are interested in finding community through sober socializing, specialty coffee, and creative connection. All views held in the article are solely of Aiden's and not representative of Beans and Beats. Only the other two founders, they read it, they're like, bro, you know this? Bro, what is this? So I'm like, oh shit.
So I did ask the people who went for the 𝗵𝗶𝗏𝗍's thing, would they go to another 𝗵𝗶𝗏𝗍's party? I think it's okay to go if you you have the knowledge. At least now you have the knowledge of that. You can make a clearer decision for yourself, right? Whether you want to potentially be, exposed to any kind of like evangelical material and all that. It's up to you, right? And I'm saying this coming from like I was very evangelical at one point in my life as well, right? We invite people to hang out on it, but at least you have to be open about your intentions. And now at least it's out in the open.
You have a lookout, the bands and all, right?
You can be like salad bar, you pick and choose what you want to do. You don't attend the
I would like to attend just to see what it's about. But the moment people start holding hands and pointing it towards the ceiling, I'm like, whoa.
That's like every club you go to in front of the DJ, that's what they're doing. Holding hands, looking at the ceiling.
That's true. That's true. But man, Gen Zs.
Yeah.
Gen Zs.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
Cool.
So what is your one Shiok comment?
You have yours?
And
Let me pull mine up.
I mean, mine is on Reddit. I think always interesting to see. Someone asked the question, almost me to ask the question, which segment or format of the podcast do you enjoy the most? And then, interesting comments right, about people, saying stuff they like. But also got people who say they can't stand it already, right? Too much government policy content, really uninteresting topics. It's almost like Straits Times reincarnate. I like the format, but the content makes me heart skip every time I see it. Have more content with experts like the eye surgeon. Please hard pass on government-related policy content.
I mean, the fact that this person still goes to our Reddit and commented, I'm like, do you really hate it? Do you really hate it?
Yeah. Funny. But yes, what is your one Shiok comment?
My one Shiok comment is someone who shared a one Shiok thing. Let's see. It was a fold in the cheese. My one Shiok thing, how amazing! And it was a video of a local jamming session at an MRT. I don't know which MRT, but basically the kid was playing on one of those public pianos, and Orchard MRT. And there was a man with a violin and another man with a guitar. So I don't know whether this was like really impromptu, but I don't think so. But yeah, there were people were jamming and then people were standing around and like uncles, aunties, young kids, old kids. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was shared on the SMRT Rabak subreddit. I didn't even know this subreddit exists. It's a public space for everyone to share your complaints, vent your anger and unhappiness on Rabak, SMRT and everything else in Singapore.
I've seen stuff from
SMRT Rabak. But yeah, that was my one Shiok comment.
Nice.
And what about your one Shiok thing?
In the vein of us being older millennials who cannot understand Gen Zs or are trying to understand Gen Zs, right? I came across this new show on Apple TV. I don't subscribe to Apple TV, but I just saw clips. It's called K-Popped. And the concept of the show is that they take global music icons with music from our era and everything, and they team them up with K-pop idols to do song battles. So, for example, they got the Spice Girls to team up with a K-pop group. And then they sang, they split the K-pop group into two, and then each half sang a different Spice Girls.
As in the actual Spice Girls?
The actual Spice Girls. Like two of them, not all five. Two of them. And then they basically do a K-pop version of like old songs like Wanna Be and Say You'll Be There. Yeah. So actually it was really interesting to watch. I sat down and I actually looked at all the clips. But the one that I think I maybe more enjoyed a lot more, right, was they got a girl group called 𝗏𝗏 to K-pop the song 𝗙𝗲𝗏 𝗏𝗏 with Vanilla Ice.
So it's an Apple TV show?
It's an Apple TV show. Came out like 3 weeks or a month ago, something like that. Hosted by Megan Thee Stallion and 𝗍, basically. And shot in Korea. So it's quite funny. So I was just talking about the Vanilla Ice one. I realized the song 𝗙𝗲𝗏 𝗏𝗏 was from our generation long time ago, right?
Yeah.
But it really is a very dated song already. You listen to it, even production and everything is very dated. But this K-pop version actually is it's fun. It's nice to listen to. And I can't deny I enjoyed seeing I don't know how old he is, like maybe 60-year-old or something, Vanilla Ice bouncing around on stage and still alive, not like, not in doing drugs or anything like that. And then he's doing a pretty fun interpretation of his song alongside these young K-pop artists.
Oh shit, that's cool, man. Wow, Kylie Minogue also.
Kylie Minogue, a lot of big stars. Boys, all Boys to Men, Kylie Minogue,
J Balvin,
Vanilla Ice, Boy George. The Boy George was also there,
Boys to Men, yeah.
Spice Girls. So yeah, it's a big thing, right? Like a lot of big icons from our era.
Oh shit! Wow. And how you chance upon this?
It just came up my feed, I suppose. I suppose I've listened to Vanilla Ice a couple of times recently. Then they just fed me this Vanilla Ice thing. I was like, what the hell? What's this?
K-pop.
I really like the song. I like this K-pop version of 𝗙𝗲𝗏
𝗏𝗏. So the recommendation for you is the one 𝗙𝗲𝗏 𝗏𝗏.
The Vanilla Ice 𝗙𝗲𝗏 𝗏𝗏 with K-pop.
Okay.
But you can go and enjoy the rest of them in your own spare time.
Okay, cool. Yeah. My one Shiok thing is something I came across when listening to another podcast. It is the OLAUG group. Basically, it is old ladies against underwater garbage. So they are a group of old ladies who swim in freshwater ponds of Cape Cod collecting trash. They are between 65 and 85 years old. And yeah, like the interview I heard, I think it was on the BBC podcast, where one of the founders and all was saying they have people who they don't have enough space to take all the volunteers who want to volunteer with them. So basically, yeah, they have small teams of swimmers. They have been cleaning up the ponds on Cape Cod from Falmouth to Chatham, which I mean, I guess it's not London or anything. It's a part of England. But yeah, they swim. They pick up beer cans, golf balls, fishing lures, waterlogged toys, and whatever they pick up, they hand it to their garbage collector who's on a canoe or kayak, and they just go up and down. And you look at pictures, the water is not the cleanest, but they do it, and they are between 65 and 85 years old. It's amazing, man.
Yeah. How do you come across this then?
I think it was a BBC podcast, and I heard them be interviewed.
I see.
I was like, oh my God, this is insane.
Not bad, My algorithm feeds me like young K-pop.
I get
85-year-old ladies.
Old ladies against underwater garbage. Wow, you can tell like it was older folk who came up with the name, because that's a horrible name. OLAUG, but oh my God, this is insane, man.
I was going to say that OLAUG sounds like a K-pop, some K-pop group's name now.
Yeah.
Even how strange their names are. So.
No, man, it's crazy. So 65 to 85 year olds. Or anyone out there who says you're like, 40, including myself, I'm like, 40, then
life is over.
What? Fuck, man, this is like 65 to 85. They got an 85-year-old swimmer who swims in public, like ponds, and picks up trash. That is insane.
It's cool. It's like the Hanyo in Jeju, those Korean women who like wear dive suits and pick stuff. Yeah,
it's crazy. So I mean, shout out to them, man.
Shout out to them. But cool,
man.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's the end of the week. Episodes will come out as usual next week. Remember, if you enjoyed this podcast, if you could share it with at least one other person, that would be great.
Yeah.
And you can follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Telegram, and Reddit.
Yeah. And if you want to work with us, just email us at contact@ministryoffunny.com or check out ministryoffunny.com.
Solid. Thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll talk to you all soon.